Got it. Okay, can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Okay. Yay. No? Okay, can you hear me now? Okay, I think you can hear me. All right, so this is 1,083 days since Richard vanished from the barracks there at Fort Bliss in El Paso, Texas. And we have big news, and I'm just going to give you the breaking news. We have the names of the JAG that has, let's see, what do you call it, denied us due process. We have the names of the JAG officers that have been involved in tampering with witnesses. We have the name of the JAG that has prevented prevented us from moving forward in finding out what happened to our son, the missing soldier, the Vanessa Guillen first absent soldier. That's really big breaking news, and I wanted to share that with you. I have the names. I'm not going to release them, but I want them to know that they need to do the right thing. They need to do the right thing. These are perpetrators. These are, the to deny us justice, to deny us our son. Give us at this point, I say, give us Richard's remains, because so much corruption has happened, and it, I understand if people are having hard times in their lives and they need to make some deals to make fast money or whatever, but we're talking about JAG. We're talking about justice. We're talking about our Department of Defense. We're talking about Fort Bliss that's supposed to be secure. We're talking about duty. We're talking about loyalty. We're talking about respect. We're talking about honor. We're talking about selfless service. And we need to focus on those things that are good, like personal courage. Personal courage. And these JAG officers that have interfered in this case to cover up the murder of our son, they need to come clean. Okay? They need to come clean. There's so many people implicated in this at this point, and we're finding out because we have intel now. I told you we have an alliance there within Fort Bliss, and we're getting information, and we have these names now. And Major General Eisenhower needs to come clean. He needs to do the right thing for our service members. Our service members are committing suicide at rates that are unheard of in the past. Our service members are being raped. Our service members that want to blow the whistle are being murdered. Our service members' morale is really low. You can look at the training that this paralegal was getting, or the fear that he was put in because he was working in that JAG office. I mean, if you're paralegal, you're working in that JAG office. Is there several different JAG offices? I'm sure. But this paralegal that I went to his house and was very nice. He was disturbed. He was so disturbed. And he talked to me in a way that showed that they were afraid. They have been constantly and severely retaliated against our service members. That as whistleblowers, they're getting their heads chopped off. They're getting bludgeoned. They're getting put in uh, pelican cases. They're getting dismembered. They're getting, you know, what is going on that you have a paralegal that does not know how to speak to a mother of a missing soldier, right? That does not know how to say, ma'am, I've heard about Richard and I'm praying for you, or, I'm really wishing you the best that you will find him, but I don't know anything. and I misspoke when I was yelling out from my backyard like a madman. I shouldn't have done that. I don't know what possessed me to do that. And I'm sorry that I made you stop your car parade in hopes that I had information for you. But that's not how he responded to me. He was a shaking mess. He was disturbed. And he said, and I don't know where the effing your son is. Really? And this is after yelling. So then, in order to get through this kind of material, this kind of information within my son's case, I have decided to focus on some wonderful, good things that interest me. And I will put it up because it is very relevant to this case. Because if you're at 1,083 days of learning that the FBI is hiding the remains of your son, that the command, the CID, the FBI, the Homeland Security, the Customs and Border Protectors, the El Paso Police Department, the Mexican military, if they know, and I think they do, and the Mexican government, and the ATF, and all of those that were at the meeting did not stand up and tell us our son was a whistleblower and that he was illegally exposed and illegally retaliated against continuously and severely until it led to his murder, where he was dismembered. Now, I'm telling you, and that they sent a fugitive apprehension unit to our home, which is an assault unit with full battle gear on, to search our home, and they did not have a warrant to intimidate us like this. And then the PAO, the mouthpiece for the general, to call us up at the very beginning of September, to grudgingly, and it was grudgingly, put Richard back on the U.S. Army rolls after they had thrown us out, thrown Richard off the rolls, brought him back on, and said, now are you ready to hear about your son? And did not tell us in that phone call that Richard was a whistleblower. And she absolutely knew. She absolutely knew. Because Richard had gone to the CPS, he had triggered the IG, he went to the CID, Tavita Nusa was assigned to him as his CID advocate or whatever, but illegally exposed him, leaked his file, tampered with files, and then now they're tampering with our key witness that reported of this leaking of the admission of bodily harm in our son's case. Now, I am going to put up some pretty things. I'm going to put up some flowers, some gardens, some beautiful paintings, some beautiful music, some beautiful structures to get through this ugliness. This is total ugliness. And I was informed just before I came on that, let me read this to you. Let me see if I can read it. Oh, I'll just do it from memory. On my post, You can't do this for your cause. Put up something beautiful on Fine Richard Halliday. And this is from somebody that's up to no good. That Carlos Juan or whatever, a Lyle Landy wannabe or whatever. I don't know. Um, they want to control the narrative to be ugly. That's why they conducted a smear campaign on Richard. They don't want it to get out that he was a good guy, that he was a distinguished honor graduate for basic training in AIT, that he did combat lifesaver, that he was the guidon bearer. You didn't hear any of that. That he was from a loving family. A loving family. And that he respected women and he respected children. So much so that he would give his life for them. And he did. Because he was afraid. He didn't let his fear interfere with his personal courage. He had integrity and honor and respect. And duty. And he was sending a message from the beginning that there were whores and blow. Whores and blow. And then he found out how old they were. Were they 14? Because we had a 14-year-old girl living in the barracks being prostituted out. A little girl, my little girls when they were 14, had little bears that they slept with. Dolls that they slept with at 14. What kind of nights does this little girl have when she's repeatedly raped during the night in the barracks on a secure installation that's supposed to have the name of Fort Bliss? What is that? And then it's not an isolated incident on Fort Bliss. And it gets even more interesting when you know more who she is, but they're keeping that under lock. But we have intel. And then you have another case at Fort Pendleton, where just a few years ago, because I've been doing this for so long, they arrested Marines for human trafficking there. And they didn't get Fort Pendleton together after something like that. You had a disabled 14-year-old girl being prostituted out. And then they tried to say, oh, she was a teen. That's how the media covers up for it. So we have a CID that is absolutely botched, absolutely corrupted, absolutely full of what do you call that? Conflicts of interest. And how do they deal with this? With asymmetric warfare tactics, with TRADOC, with bringing in the likes of like Lyle Landy LLC, or allowing the likes of Lyle Landy LLC, or anyone else that has harassed us. But you know what? It's illegal to say that you're an LLC and you're not in the state of Texas. That's fraud. And, I've never covered up who I am, and Richard never covered up who he is. And our prime witness has never covered up who he is. We all know. But these people that, for whatever reason, if they are hired, if they are implicated in this case, if they are um, active duty, I don't know what they are. Because they hide behind a persona. They hide behind fraud, waste, and abuse. And so not only is our CID and the FBI and the DOJ and the DOD, and we saw that with the FBI the last few days, they are absolutely capable of the corruption that it takes to hide the remains of a whistleblower, to hide the remains of Richard Halliday during 2020, during the whole Vanessa Guillen aftermath and the Enrique Roman Martinez aftermath and the Austin Hawk aftermath and the Caleb Smither aftermath and the so many others. And it is really um, something to listen to the testimonies up there in Congress. And all, we're paying for all of that. And I don't think it's as hard as they make it out to be. It's just so corrupt on every level that it is getting more and more and more difficult to establish justice and to get justice, which is they have become agencies of preventing people from living their rights, from having their rights, from exercising their rights under the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. And we should have had an inquiry, a congressional inquiry, a long time ago. Absolutely, Vanity Fair, Veronica, has not served her constituents, has not served El Paso, has not served Fort Bliss. She does not care about the soldiers, does not care about children, does not care about the border, women, doesn't care about women, doesn't care about anybody. And clearly, there are people involved in this case that funnel upwards. Absolutely, Major General Clem Coward. Absolutely, we have General McConville implicated in this case. Absolutely, we have it going into the DA and the AG, because they would be acting totally different. They would be protecting the Richards family. They would be protecting all of these victims and all of these major crimes families. But there was a lot of juggling going on in 2020 and 2021. A lot of juggling. A lot of juggling legally. And a lot of ignoring. And a lot of, I think, underhanded deals. Criminal deals. Absolutely. Because our intelligence is telling us the fear, well, we know, the fear in the high ranks is real. We have more intelligence. See, this is the thing. We are riding Major General Eisenhower, and we have more intelligence coming to us than he has in his briefings. And That's and I'm not saying 100% of the time, but even if it happens once that we know more than him, that I think that makes him stand up and click some heels together. So, and I'm telling you right now, we have the names in the JAG. I wonder if he has the names in the JAG that hindered our son's case, that denied us due process, that tampered with witnesses, that colluded with those implicated in this case. I wonder if he has that information. He needs to do the right thing, because we have been laying down the foundation to move forward, because we want to know where Richard is, because we want to have our son's remains. We want accountability. We don't want ugliness. We want beauty, and justice is beautiful. We're sick and tired of this corruption polluting our country and the world with all their blowing up things. You know, Ukraine, beautiful, beautiful. It wasn't some kind of poor, wasteless land. Ukraine, breadbasket, amazing soil, amazing structures, amazing cities, amazing people. And they just went in there and destroyed history, destroyed structures that took real artistry to build. They're all about ugliness, all about destruction, all about death, all about training to suicide. And then I have this persona telling me in my cause what I'm allowed to do or not do. I'm sorry. I am not going to listen to someone that wants me to only focus on ugliness. I want to focus on things that are really beautiful. I love star forts. Let's look at that. I love star forts. I love them. Look at this. Aren't these remarkable? These are just a few things. These are the snowflakes. And then it seems like, because snowflakes are made with some kind of, there's some videos of oscillation and vibrations that happen in our atmosphere that create these beautiful snowflakes, and that in the past they might have known something about this, and they're building star forts everywhere. Berlin, star fort. London, star fort. Paris, star fort. Copenhagen, star fort. All over, even in St. Augustine, star fort. Florida, right? All up and down our East Coast, star forts, all over. Some have been destroyed. I love them. I like to go visit them. I like to hike them. They're beautiful. Why don't we start learning how to build structures? We need infrastructure. But no. No, we're too busy trying to create war, trying to cover up very vicious murders, trying to sell our soldiers, sell our young people, our service members fentanyl and other. We have we have people. We have, it must be a lot of people in the White House sniffing that white powder, because they're covering that up so quick. Is that supposed to be beautiful? Is that supposed to be honorable? When you have people in prison that you've just totally destroyed their lives because they had some white powder? I mean, why is there a dual laws in the Department of Justice? Why is the Department of Justice so corrupt? If you want it legal, legalize it. But it's legal for some people and illegal for other people? I mean, it I've had people, no way could they pull this off. They pulled off COVID. They pulled off COVID. They destroyed I don't know how many small businesses. And before that, they covered up for the burning of opportunity zones that were established in inner cities that helped inner city families create businesses. They're ugly. These people that cover up the burnings of opportunity zones are ugly people. These people that collude or even get hired to mislead us, to schmooze us, to be the face of fine Richard Halliday with no real good intention. These are ugly people. When you have General McConville setting up a stage task force fine Richard Halliday where he orders the army not to wear a uniform because he doesn't want it official and no op board. These are ugly people. When you have Special Agent Marlon Soto scrubbing Richard's file of a key witness, that's an ugly person. And not telling us that our son was a whistleblower and then going to, and it had to be, well, I suspect that it was him and Tavita Nusa that went to the military police and stood at the guard mount to spew a smear campaign against Richard so that the military police, who haven't been trained properly, they don't have any sense of let's find him due process, let's find him and then we'll judge him then. They didn't have that kind of attitude. They had well, we won't even go look for him. And we'll do even better. We'll try to persuade other people not to look for him or help the family. That came out of the military police right there on Fort Bliss. Anthony Swafford, who we put in a complaint about because he messed up. That's an ugly person. It's an ugly person. And I feel so bad for him because he has children. He's a father. And he's an ugly person. He messed up. So, yes, I need to post up some really good. I need to post up some Katherine Jenkins, right? Some gorgeous music. We really love her. We need to post up some really gorgeous things that are around us so that these people who have been groomed into ugliness can maybe we can shake them awake so that they will go, wait a minute, there's more to life. There's more to life than colluding with ugliness. There's more to life than covering up for a murder of a missing soldier. There's more to life than believing our agencies that are known to be botched, known to be having conflict of interest. Absolutely. I think it's on purpose that they have conflict of interest. Because if you want to run a criminal syndicate and make some money off of these service members, um, and you're going to do it every which way you can. And if you want to sell equipment, sell weapons, sell um, ammunition, if you want to sell children, if you want to get children on a base and be, pimp them out and get some extra money because you're allowing it, and give them some extra money for raping her. Um, I mean, this is, let me tell you, is she rich? Is a 14-year-old rich? Does she make some money? Did she make some money while she was living in the barracks, having sleepless nights because she was being raped? Did she make some money? Who made the money? Who made the money that Richard was calling out? What was Richard calling out? And who's going to take a stand? Who is sick and tired of this ugliness? Who is sick and tired of this corruption? I am. I have a beautiful family, and I want to keep it that way. I don't want their pollution. And so, and yes, I definitely understand the risk, because this goes to the Secretary of the Army. This whole hiding Richard's body. You think that is on a local level? I mean, this has to be international. This is an international collusion. This is an international conspiracy. And yes, I absolutely, the Army is all about colluding and conspiracy and planning and, all of that. Asymmetric warfare tactics and online, intelligence. They have, the intelligence has 6 ways to Sunday. So you don't think that they are capable of finding Richard? You don't think they're capable of giving us answers? I think they're totally capable. And I think they're capable of designing uh, um, a cover up that is international in reach. I mean, just look at what's going on in Ukraine. Just and look at the whole Biden and their records and things like that. This is all being reported the last few days. I'm not making it up. And then I've talked to so many families, and it is one CID botched investigation after the other. And Veltri, Special Agent Jessica Veltri, she can't even, she has this long CV, that they just sing her praises on all her abilities all her years as a special agent. And yet 3 months ago, it's been just about 3 months, she said, oh, in a few days, by Friday, I will get a summary for you of Richard's case. She can't even write us a summary of Richard's case. I think that Representative Torres needs to know this. We're in communication with her. I don't know what she's going to do about it, but Congress needs to do an inquiry. Congress needs to do an inquiry with Richard's case. That's what we're working on. And it's hard work, because you understand, if we get a congressional inquiry, if we get a congressional hearing, It's even the media will have to come out of its silence. Even the media. And it will be a beautiful thing. It will be a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing to expose the ugliness and to call it ugly. And soldiers being chopped up is ugly. Whistleblowers being illegally exposed and retaliated against is ugly. That's why they had to scrub and sanitize Richard's file from any of that retaliation. There's no mention in, we're still inquiring, right? We're on our third inquiry um, of why is the mention of the chaptering and the field grade Article 15 not in Richard's file in his archive. But they decided to promote him twice. So they retaliate against him and call him every name in the book like an Al Capone wannabe. And Marlon Soto spins this web that Richard is dealing with the cartels and that he's uh, using um, his his for motion picture only use prop money to do drug deals with the cartel. Like the cartel are that stupid? But this is what Marlon Soto was spewing. To get the law enforcement agencies to think badly of Richard. And you know what? I know that they did not believe it. But they believed something was up, because if the CID, in this small sorry, in this small office is going to spew such a ridiculous smear campaign on Richard, then something must be up. He really wants to cover something up, and they go along with it. Right? Okay, I'll take your sorry that I didn't have the audio going, but it's weird. Anyway, I should have checked. All 15 or more agencies, they should have had a sign in for those individual names. Yeah, we have some of them. Maybe there is a reason God didn't allow a congressional hearing, because now more factual evidence has been unraveling that may have never been uncovered if they did the congressional hearing. I've thought about that too, Danielle, and I think you're right. God has his timing. And it is interesting that we got a lead that on October 26th, the FBI took over the investigation of Richard's uh, case, right? I want to get the right wording in there, case. Not the investigation, but the case. And that was interesting information that came in, because October 26, 2020 is the same day of FBI Man. So FBI Man walks into a Dollar General and says that the FBI has found Richard's remains, and that he's dead. Shh. And that they found the remains in Mexico because they were looking for Richard's remains in 5 places. 5 places. Now, not all of those 5 places might have been in Mexico, right? Because the information was just 5 places. So it's very interesting how the FBI were getting information that that they took the lead that day, that we gave them the CCTV footage and the video footage of the cashier, and yet they didn't tell us who he was, except for, oh, he's a nobody. That was a cover-up job. Absolutely cover-up job. So the FBI are implicated. And if they're going to not tell us who the FBI man is, and we know who he is, he's Nadal Bayim, the father-in-law of Lieutenant Colonel Bradford Bugado in the G3 of the 32nd ADCOM, Richard's command, Richard's operational command. Um, if they're going to keep that information from us, they're covering up something big. What are they covering up? The finding of Richard's remains, the murder of Richard. That's the only thing that makes sense. And then you have Major General Clem Coward calling off the search. Our lead says on the 31st of July of 2020, he's calling off or terminating the search for Richard. Right? Why? That makes sense too. Especially when we got information that on the 29th of July that partial remains were found at Red Rio Range. And we've given them this information. We are live every day giving them this information because they're watching us. And we don't have a letter, ma'am. The Army is not that ugly. Yes, the Army is that ugly. The Army is selling 14-year-olds to soldiers in the barracks, young soldiers, under immense pressure because they can't be a whistleblower. They'll get their heads chopped off. They'll get bludgeoned to death. They'll get put in a foxhole in little pieces. They'll get dismembered and put into different locations. They'll get retaliated against severely and continuously until they capitulate to the Vanity Fair, to the rape, to just looking the other way to the rape. And are there videos taken? I want to know, is there child porn being taken while they're doing this prostitution in the barracks? And let me tell you, it was all set up because Command Sergeant Major said that him and we, meaning Major General Clem Coward, his sidekick, brought in the girls during the COVID lockdown. Did he card them? How old were these girls? Were they also teens? Because even as teens, as the media likes to call a 14-year-old, that's getting prostituted out at Fort Pendleton and learning disabled on top of that, these teens are still underage when it comes to alcohol. And you're telling me that these parties that Command Sergeant Major Jerry Jakovitz, who now works at VA, he was given an award, brought in the girls. Did he card them? They're still underage when it comes to drinking. And there's no alcohol at these parties. And this is COVID, so they kept them 6 feet apart with masks on. And he sat there and chaperoned them. And we have witness testimony that happened besides the witness testimony of Command Sergeant Major Jakovitz. Now, you have a first sergeant that gets angry that parents want more for their volunteer sons and daughters. That we don't want our sons and daughters to be groomed into these sex cults. That when our son and daughter signs up to join and serve in the United States military, they are supposed to be defending the Constitution, the land, and the people. They are supposed to be serving in the defense of our country, not being customers in their barracks that is a marketplace for illegal drugs. not being targeted as customers for 14-year-old prostituted girls, not being targeted um, for selling equipment and weapons and ammunition illegally over the border. Embezzlement. What else is going on in the military? They have 5 failed audits worth trillions of dollars. See, it's very clear by this time that that's not okay with me. That's not okay. And so you absolutely know that for Richard, that wasn't okay. And he did a remarkable thing. He did a remarkable thing. He stood up against the ugliness, against the pollution, against the Trojan horse that has infiltrated our country, our agencies, our institutions. And I like nice dishes and beautiful oil paintings, even watercolors. I really like oil paintings. I love beautiful gardens, beautiful structures, because I really appreciate the talent and the hard work that goes into making those things. The talent and the hard work, and not, being groomed to be ugly and not to produce stuff. Just producing more ugliness. So I don't apologize for saying I'm not hacked. I'm putting up some beautiful things on Find Richard Halliday, because I don't want Find Richard Halliday to be solely obsessed with the ugliness. Richard loved beautiful things. He loved to dress up. You can see tons of pictures with him in a tie, in a waistcoat. He loved, I have it on my table out there as a reminder, he loved gemstones. He loved gemstones. And when we would go to Heidelberg, we lived in Heidelberg for many years, and we were in walking distance to the downtown walking zone. And we would go shopping and everything, the girls and I would go into stores, and Richard would head to the gemstone store. He loved them. So you know, the beauty, this is a battle. This is I don't want to call it a fight. I want to call it, this is trying to establish justice, everything that's beautiful again, right? And that includes justice. So that people could go and live. I was told by a doctor, I was pretty sick. That's why we ended up staying in Germany for as long as we did. And when it was all over with and I survived, the doctor said, now I didn't go and do all that school and have to work all these nights for you to go home and curl up in a ball and be afraid to live. That's what my doctor told me. She told it to me in German. I'm translating it. Um, she said, I did it so that you could go and live beautifully. And told her, um, yep, that's what I'm going to go do. And I don't want to let her down. And so this stand against the corruption and the ugliness in order to find out what happened, you know, I'm not being mean to anybody. I want them to do their duty. I want CID to do what they are supposed to do. I want the FBI to do what they're supposed to do. I want the DEA to do what they're supposed to do, and the DA to do what he is, well, what they're supposed. This is Bill Hicks to do, and Jaime Esparza to do. He's the AG to do what he is supposed to do, and they're not. And I want Veronica Escobar to do what she's supposed to do, and she's not. And for our Senator Lindsey Graham to do what he's supposed to do, and he's not. And our representative, William Timmons, he's too interested in other things, up to no good. And he's not doing what he's supposed to do. We have the DOJ not doing what they're supposed to do, and we have the JAG within the Army not doing what they're supposed to do. We have McConville, General McConville, not doing what he's supposed to do. And so far, we're just waiting on Major General Eisenhower to see how he reacts. We just want them to do what they're supposed to do instead of slopping around the ugliness. So, and now we have the names in the JAG of those that, I don't know, colluded. They colluded with those implicated in this case to sabotage the search for Richard and to sabotage justice. And anytime anybody sabotages justice and the truth, that is an affront of every person that lives in this country. Because we pay their wages, y'all. They're supposed to be servants of us. And they're betraying us. So thank you so much for coming on and listening. And I'm going to get more information tomorrow that I hope is very good. So thank you so much. Thank you for your prayers. Thank you, Danielle, for your great questions and your help and your help. And I will be back tomorrow, God willing. Um, yeah, it's all His timing, and the timing right now, it's it's like a zeitgeist, right? It's all kind of coming together. When I listen to what's going on in DC, I'm like, oh my gosh, everything's kind of coming together. So the time might be right, and we'll see. So keep saying your prayers. And I just want to say thank you so much, and God bless. And I will talk to you.